Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa.
Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda.
Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda.
Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana.
So, if we look closely with what is happening in our endeavor to know and understand our relationship with the Supreme Person, we can be guided by the devotees, the spiritual master. So, si Lord Chaitanya, He came here, and He's giving us guidance. And spiritual life starts when we come in contact with God. Although God is everywhere, He's inside of everything, outside of everything, He's in the spiritual world, but He comes. So when one is fortunate enough na maswerte siya, he comes in contact with the pure loving servant of God. So obviously, the reason we come in contact with the representative of God is to be able to see and understand how we can relate to God, to Krishna, to the Supreme Person. Because if I say God, due to our preconditioning, we think there are many gods, but there's only one Supreme Person, and He's the all-attractive Lord Krishna, Govinda. Okay. So, if we look closely sa buhay ng spiritual master, they set an example. Nagbibigay po sila ng halimbawa, paano sila nag-succeed. Okay? During the time na si His Divine Grace, because our instructing spiritual master is the Parampara, Krishna. So, all the literatures na binabasa natin, it's written by our instructing spiritual master. And His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, our dear spiritual master, he is passing on to us the science of devotional service from his spiritual master. So if you look closely, isang bagay, one common denominator, one factor, absolute factor, that they give us how to succeed. It is following the instruction of the spiritual master. Okay? To be faithful, to be truthful, to be sincere. So the disciple or student who wants to know God, and when Krishna gives us this vision in our heart, bibigyan kasi niya tayo ng vision eh. Hindi lang vision, i-arrange niya na we will come in contact with this representative. And how do we know? Paano natin malaman? Is through the guidance from our instructing spiritual master. And they give us guidance how we will not be deviated, na hindi tayo malilihit sa landas para makabalik sa kaharian ng Diyos. Dahil yung puso natin, yung pagmamahal natin ay siya lang. Yun yung science and devotional service. Kaya pinag-usapan natin dito lately, for many times, laging nire-remind tayo kung ano yung nagse-separate sa atin o naglilihis ng landas na para makilala natin, mayakap natin, mabigay natin yung buong buhay natin sa poong may kapal. Yun yung sakit ng materialism. Yun yung envy of God. Yun yung false ego. At least, klaro na sa lahat about your identity. So from there, we can start. So, what's happening when Lord Chaitanya, kausap niya si Ramananda Roy, is a close, confidential, loving servant of the Supreme Person. So, tinanong niya, pinag-usapan nila, they talk about the different paths of the science wherein one can have clarity of mind. But Lord Chaitanya, sabi niya, discuss more on and on hanggang dumating sa science ng devotional service. Meaning your love and the glories of the Supreme Person. Because Lord Chaitanya is interested in the pastimes of Lord Krishna and the relationship of loving service, wherein all of us individuals here, it's inherent in us. Because love is inseparable from us. Happiness or joy is inseparable from life, the living entity. Kaya lang we are not experiencing this complete ananda or bliss when we have material consideration, meaning we are not liberated. Ibig sabihin ng liberated, when one is free from material desires. So when one is free from material desires, at that time, he can now perform devotional service. In the beginning, it is just practice. Okay? So the 9th process of devotional service begins with hearing. Hearing means listening. You can be in a situation like this, but you're not able to listen. Why? Because there is a force that covers our ear, that blocks our heart from taking refuge, unconditional surrender to the Supreme Person. That is the reason we chant the supreme names of Lord Krishna, and it is the process na ma-purify tayo from this material covering and material consideration so we can be in a situation where we can take shelter and offer our life to the Supreme Person, to do His will. So yun ang purpose, to do God's will. So the spiritual master gives us an example, his life's example, because the spiritual master is teacher by example. What he preach, what he teach, it is his life. He teach love for God, he's loving the Supreme Person. So the spiritual master is someone who is in a position of transcendence, of unalloyed, pure, loving service to the Supreme Person. Yun. And the reason we hear and listen and follow Him is because we want to be in that situation also. Because that is the goal of life. Yun ang goal ng life eh. To be loving the Supreme Person unconditionally. Kaya, you may wonder, you come to the temple, you bow down, you offer, you come to a place, nandito kayo sa place na to where the congregational chanting, the science of how we can be in harmony, na dumating tayo sa point na we will not be diverted to really carry on and do the will of God. So that's why we're here. So with spiritual understanding and wisdom, we can be guided. And that guidance must come from God, the representative of God, and the instructing spiritual master. So yung path natin, the descending method. So very simple. Pero bakit mahirap? Kasi na-condition man tayo. And we are influenced by the modes of material nature, and the mind is very turbulent, influenced by the modes, the desire are there. So the mind must be the place. It is the place where our enemy is. Lust, anger, and greed. So if you identify yourself as this body, then definitely you'll be carrying that load. Okay? So the process of the purification of chanting the holy names free us from this lust in the mind. The mind becomes purified and we can direct the mind. So, ibig sabihin nun, it is a personal endeavor ng bawat isa sa atin. Kaya kung may path tayo na binigay ang spiritual master ni Krishna, at sinabi niya, walk straight, then we have to walk straight. Follow the instruction. So I'll give you the story of our spiritual master. And first, about the glories of Lord Chaitanya. So si Lord Chaitanya, who came here 500 years ago, pagpunta niya rito, nakastala na yun sa scripture since time immemorial. Nasa golden age pa lang yung scripture, nandun na yung mga Puranas are all eternal. Scriptures are non-different from the Supreme Person. They are absolute and eternal. And when we speak of scriptures, it is about the Word of God, His will. The Vedas is about knowing and understanding the supreme person, person, like you are a person. So that is the path we are following. The path of Bhakti Yoga guided by Parampara. Okay? Kaya very safe. Kasi all those who followed it succeeded. They're able to succeed because they put themselves under the care of God to do the will of God. So yun ang pinaka-main objective ng program dito. You come here to be able to understand clearly, yes, success means to be doing what is pleasing to God. But the mind, under material consideration, covered by the three modes, you can see it resists. It rebels. May resistance. Kaya when we talk about service, since for so long we've been serving illusion, there's resistance. It's like going against the grain. Parang ang hirap lumakad. No? But we long for happiness. Okay? So, when Lord Chaitanya exhibited these pastimes, he approached a spiritual master, Ishvara Puri, coming in that line of Lord Brahma, yung spiritual master, from Krsna. And he was given instruction, very simple, chant the holy names. Okay? So he followed it. He succeeded. To show us, he's playing kasi as a role of an ordinary person. So ibig sabihin, hindi yung katalinuhan na nababasa nating scripture, alam natin yung Vedas, hindi yon. Kasi pwedeng matalino tayo, ginagamit natin yung isipan natin, yung intelligence natin. Pero hindi natin natumbok yung puso natin to do the will of God. Okay? Although alam natin, but in practice, hindi natin ma-apply. So paano yon? So what connects us? It is Krishna Himself who will connect us with that love. Okay? So, nangyari, he succeeded. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, at the young age, he came from families of pure loving servant. They're all devotees. His father. So, he accepted Bhaktisiddhanta as spiritual master. So, nung kabataan niya, about sa 20s, no? Sabi ni Bhaktisiddhanta sa kanya, please translate into English language yung Vedas na sinulat ni Lord Vyasadeva. Okay? Kaya ngayon, nagkaroon ng value yung English language. Kasi na-translate yun, yung Sanskrit, yung Vedas, about the glories of God, na mababasa natin. Okay? So nagkaroon ng value. Yung English language, naging garland para maintindihan natin yung science. Pero sabi ni Bhaktisiddhanta sa kanya, nag-ask sa kanya yung spiritual master niya na, please translate it into English language. And teach the Western world. Yung Western world, yung mga nasa US, America. So yun ang ginawa niya habang nasa kabataan siya, lahat ng manuscript, translate niya yun hanggang dumating sa time ng prime age ng body niya, about 60s. So pumunta ngayon siya sa Amerika. Pagpunta niya sa Amerika, dati kasi 1970s, 1960s, mga ganon. Wala pang mga cruise ship. Sumakay lang siya sa cargo boat. At dahil may devotee, libre lang siya sumakay. For 1 month, yung barko from Atlantic Ocean, dumaan. Age niya, matanda na. So siya nagluluto ng pagkain niya, he cooks his food. And during that time, yung ocean, hindi naman kagaya rito sa atin lang, travel ka. Talagang yung waves, and 1 month. So, nagkaroon siya ng heart pain. Actually, na-stroke din siya, you know. It's so hard. Pero, one main one main na makikita natin, he persevered. He engaged in austerity. Austerity means sacrifice. So, kaya ko kinikwento sa atin to para ma-remember natin, sacrifice means austerity. Kagaya kayo, pumunta kayo rito. Alam ko, hindi naman kayo pumunta rito para chika-chika o kaya You come here, you went into this rigorous travel, makipag-deal sa mga tao na ayaw kayong paalisin, and it's hard. You have to ride, magsuka kayo sa austerity yon, sacrifice. To be able, in your heart, you have this hope, not against hope, but you know in your heart, I can understand more and I can be guided to do the will of God. So you come. And the association is very important. Association, kung sinong kasama natin. So, yung association natin previously, our association previously, did not enhance, hindi nabigyan ng tugon yung dapat nating makamtan. Kasi nga, mundane It's about this world. So you went through all the sacrifice, austerity, yung austerity kasi sacrifice, to be able to do what is pleasing to God. It's a sacrifice for you. And if you can understand closely, clearly, you're here, but all the program that is here is guided by Parampara, by our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. It's not mine, and I'm just here to pass on what our Gurudev wanted us to hear and be guided with. It is the science of the nectar of instruction, so we can be guided. So, it will be up to you, sa inyo, to take it, to make it the right choice, and it will be up to you to walk the path or do the will of God. I cannot do that for you. That's why it's very important to understand spiritual life is not joining. Okay? Spiritual life means a choice, a decision you make, sacrifice, austerity to be close with God, to do the will of God. Okay? Just like a devotee, he accepts something that seemingly mahirap just to do the will of God. Like bringing your body here. You can just sleep in your place, you know. Doon lang kayo, maghintay lang kayong mawala yung COVID, you know. Just sleep, talk, you know. But you bring your body here, ang hirap. Okay? So what happened? Sinunod ni Bhaktivedanta Swami, our grandfather, our spiritual master. Kasi there's only one spiritual master, Krishna. And the spiritual master is inseparable from Krishna because he's Saktabesh avatar, empowered living entity. He has the potency to bless us, to pray for us, to protect us. And Krishna will do it. Okay. Because Lord Krishna, relationship with the spiritual master and his devotees. The devotees, what is unconditional love? No condition. Okay? So the spiritual master, who is a perfect example, who lives that life of unconditional love for the Supreme Person, unalloyed devotional service, he does not ask anything from Krishna. When he pray, it is about his wishing as well. It's not about him. Okay? It's about Krishna's love for us. So he represents Krishna's affection and love for us. So that's why when we come in contact with the devotee, he knows us. It's not like we come in contact with someone and we have this shield. Alam niyo yung shield? Kasi we don't know if this person will exploit me, do harm to me. Okay? That's why the process of bowing down to the Lord we do here, it's not like yung parang process na when you go into competition, taekwondo, di ba? You bow down. O kaya you see the boxer, They bow down. Pero nakatingin sila sa mata, sa kamay. Managang sila ba? Baka biglang pag-bow down nila, pumikit sila, knock down, di ba? So sa spiritual master, when you come in contact with God, you can put your life in His hands. No fear. That's why we bow down. And how did it come to that point? Because Krishna is guiding us that the spiritual master will not harm us. But the spiritual master is very cold with the false ego. Because false ego is not real. It is the conditioning that we have been engaged, we're in for so long. And it's not real. When we identify sa false ego, the spiritual master tells us immediately, because you're identifying with yourself, your impulse ego, you think you're being hurt. Okay? But actually, He's trying to free you with this instruction. And that instruction cuts off the knot, the shackle of this material conditioning. Okay? His blessing, His association will be our success in doing and engaging in pure loving devotional service. So it's a personal relationship, a choice which you should make. All of us should make. So, Bhaktisiddhanta Swami traveled for a month, and then he arrived in Boston, America, and he's not bringing anything, wealth or whatsoever. He's just bringing manuscript, the teachings, the instruction of our instructing spiritual master, Lord Vyasadeva, in English. And he went to this park, he's bringing the holy names, Krishna. So he chanted, Hare Krishna, every day he goes there. Then he opened a door, he was given the opportunity to have a place so people can come, makapunta sila, and then he chanted with them, he taught them the science. Okay? And he succeeded. He's one person, but he did so much, because it is Krishna's will. And wherever there is Krishna, there is victory. So we want to become victorious, to succeed, then Krishna must be the forefront of what we're doing. Because nothing can go wrong with God. He's the supreme controller. So the more we chant, the more we experience closeness with God. The more we are able to appreciate God's energy, the more we are able to appreciate and see the living entity, and our heart now glides towards doing the will of God. We become enthused. We become attracted to do the will of God because God Himself guides us. And our love will now be focused upon doing the will of God, not just following the mind, because we come to the point of liberation. Liberated from material desire, but because it's like an electric fan that is cut off from the electricity. Inalis nyo yung plug ng electric fan, still umiikot pa. Okay? Umiikot pa. Kasi it's not that the desires are not there, but hindi na kayo nag-identify sa desire. Kasi desires are temporary. Hindi na yung parabang, tukso layuan mo ako, pipikit ko yung mata ko, punta ako sa isang lugar, ayaw ko. Hindi. Because now your focus is your heart's life. Krishna. Okay? And it is addressed when we are chanting the holy names coming from the lips of the pure loving servant of God. So yun ang pinaka-importante. So there are other also transcendentalists but impersonalists who chant Krishna's names. So from them, we can never achieve love for God. Because the impersonalists who chant Krishna's names, their understanding, their consciousness is still polluted of envy of God. Okay? It's like para bang yung ahas, yung cobra, pinapainom nyo ng gatas, mas dumadami yung venom, nagiging malakas. Okay? So, ganun din yon. So, dapat, advice sa atin, don't associate with impersonalists who think they're God, they can become God, and destroy this transcendental opportunity that we can give our life, our heart, and make this choice to do the will of God. Kaya we associate with devotees who are with the same mind. It's important association because with the association and the Sankirtan together will lead us to success. Okay? So Bhaktivedanta Swami is divine grace. He arrived in America and chanted the holy names and fulfilled the mission of his spiritual master. He succeeded because the will of the spiritual master is the will of Krishna. It is his love to do the will of Krishna. So ganun din yung relationship natin. Kasi kung titignan nyo maigi, you look closely, the only way Krishna will trust us is when we have this unalloyed, unconditional love for Him. In the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, why will He put Himself in the embrace of Mother Yasoda, seemingly so helpless? Yeah? Because Mother Yasoda loves Him and God is conquered by love, unconditional love. Okay? Simply loving Krishna, and Krishna, the Supreme Person, is attracted to love and devotion, which is inherent in all of us. So dapat ang gagawin natin to purify our consciousness from all this material consideration and come to the point of humbleness that we can offer our life and do His will. Yun yung process. And when we are in that stage of liberation and engaging in such transcendental activities, we experience ananda or joy. Because it's our natural activity that gives us pleasure, happiness. And that happiness is connected with the pleasure and happiness of God. So yun yung process na pinapalo natin. No other, walang iba. So, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarup, prior to meeting His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, he is already teaching the science of identity, Aham Brahmasmi. Then when he came in contact with His Divine Grace through his instruction, he decided to be a student of His Divine Grace. So, our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, decided to just offer his life to His Divine Grace. So, he talked to all his students and disciples. May mga disciples siya, dami niyang disciple. Okay? Sabi niya, I will be accepting His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, as my spiritual teacher and be a student. Be a student, huh? And he's a teacher, you know. And people follow him. And he said to his disciples, sabi niya, if you want, you can also follow what I'm doing. But from now on, I am giving my life and be a student of His Divine Grace. Okay. So doon ang simula yan. So he's guided by His Divine Grace, but they're setting an example that the spiritual master has no material consideration. What is material consideration? Yes, it is the prayer ni Lord Chaitanya. Oh my Lord, yun yung consciousness na ma-achieve natin when we follow faithfully the instruction of the spiritual master. Kung titignan nyo, hindi naman mahaba yung tinuro ni His Divine Grace, Isvara Puri kay Lord Chaitanya. Sabi niya, because you are a fool, you're less intelligent, chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare, Krishna, and Rama. Pero he has everything. He succeeded. And the fruit, dumating siya sa point na he cannot stop chanting and experience so much happiness, ananda. Pero from makikita ng mga aliba, kagaya nung mga impersonalist, nung binasa nyo, nakikita na sentimentally siya, namimiga siya ng happiness. No, it comes naturally. Because the living entity, us, we're joyful by nature. It's just like a fish out of water on the seashore. Hindi siya masaya. Pag binalik siya sa tubig, di ba, tuwan-tuwa siya. So when the living entity is connected with the pleasure of God, doing His will, you'll be like that. We'll be like that. And Lord Chaitanya exhibited that it is achievable to love and do the will of God by following the spiritual master, who is the representative of God, whom Krsna wanted us to follow, and who gives us the guidance, who arranged it, that we come in contact with the spiritual master, his representative, it is He Himself. So now it's up to us to make the decision, to hear and listen, to understand the truth, because the truth will set us free. Where there is light, the truth, all the import of the Vedas will be revealed to us when we come in contact with God, especially His pure loving servant. Okay? So now, it's not for me to say, he's a bona fide spiritual master, he's a lover of God. It is God Himself. And we are guided by scriptures, the instructing spiritual master, and the process of purification wherein we chant, then we can hear the Lord within the heart. For so long, yung encumbrances natin, yung balakid, is because we're not able to hear the Lord within the heart. We cannot differentiate between yung mind natin, yung false ego, hindi natin nakikita. Akala natin, sino nga ba talaga ako? Sino susundin ko? Yung puso ko o yung ano? Kagaya, di ba, napapansin niyo yung mga bata ko minsan, pag na-attach sila sa opposite sex, tapos inisip nila, mag-aasawa na ako. Di ba? Tapos sabihin na, anak, wag muna. Hindi ka mo pa kayang mabuhay mag-isa. Kawawa ka. Hindi, pag-ibig na talaga to. Pero desire lang naman yun sa mind. Okay? Pag ginawa niya, sinunod na niya, may consequence man. Di ba? Hindi niya na magagawa yung ginagawa niya dati. Araw-araw naghahawak na siya ng bata. Di ba? Pagtagal, yung focus niya sa form na ng bata. Kasi inarrange ng Mother Nature na yung baby talagang lovable. Di ba napansin nyo pag may bagong baby, okay, mga batang maliliit, ay, ang cute. Pero alam nyo, helpless ba sila masyado? But everybody protects them. The mama and everybody. Uy, huwag mong kakalawin yan, ha? They protect. Di ba? Arrangement ng Mother Nature yon. Kaya arrangement ng Mother Nature, yung form na yung lovable. Halimbawa, yung bata, nagpupo, nagligid-ligid sa pupo. Pero yung mama, uy, ang cute, nililinis yan, di ba? Pero kung siguro kung malaki, halimbawa, malaki na yung katawan mo, nagpupo ka, higa ka, gagawin man ng nanay mo sa iyo. Baka sipain ka pa ng nanay mo. Di ba? Hawa din ito, baho ka. Di ba? So, arrangement ng Mother Nature yun. Ganun ka-influensya si Maya. Kaya yung false ego, extended. I'm this body. She's my daughter. She's my son. He's my son. Dahil sa conditioning ng material nature. Attachment. So when one becomes liberated, he becomes free from false attachment. Yung real attachment is our heart longing to be with God. At akala natin, yung mind natin kasi very limited, gusto natin mahakop tanan. But yung process na yon, following the mind, the desire and Maya, yun ang magpapalayo sa atin. Kasi yung mind, temporary. And not only that, yung magbibigay ng fulfillment sa atin is the cause of all causes, Krsna. Kaya when we pray, we chant the holy names, we experience fulfillment in our heart. We experience shelter. But if you follow the mind, ang laking problema. Kasi the mind is very limited at ang guiding principle noon ay misdirected shelter to this material world. So yun yung process na pinapalo natin. Na klaro masyado. So, when Srila Prabhupada accepted His divine grace as spiritual master, He left all His disciples. And sabi niya, if you want, you can do what I'm doing now. I offer my life to my Gurudev. And up to now, that is what He's doing. So, nag-set lang siya na example ng the bona fide spiritual master. Isang qualification kasi ng bona fide spiritual master, he has no material consideration. Ano yung material consideration? To enjoy in the mode of goodness, to enjoy in the mode of passion, to enjoy in the mode of ignorance. So, paano na-achieve yun? It's exemplified by the life of Lord Chaitanya. So, nung lumapit si Lord Chaitanya sa spiritual master niya, he was given this instruction to chant. And then he came back. Sabi niya sa spiritual master niya, "My dear spiritual master, how come I'm experiencing this? I chant and dance and I cannot stop chanting and singing the holy names as if I'm getting mad." No? And the spiritual master smiled. And he said to Lord Chaitanya, "I'm very happy because you have succeeded. You're very successful." And then Lord Chaitanya, sabi niya sa spiritual master niya, "How come I'm feeling longing for God, separation from Krsna, as if this world is vacant?" Okay? Then the spiritual master bless him. So yung blessing ng spiritual master, his prayer for our success will be the guiding principle for us to succeed. So we are put now in a situation wherein we can make a choice. Tayo. Mahamaya ito. Our will under the dictates servant of material nature. But inisip natin, we're master. And false ego means, I'm this body, I'm the Lord, and extended false ego, trying to control material nature. So doon natin makikita, nagme-make ba akong progress? Hindi yata Okay? What should I do? Yun ang gusto kong pag-usapan natin ngayon. What should I do? Okay? Tapos, ang nangyari kay Lord Chaitanya, yung prayer niya is this. Tayo kasi, lahat tayo may gustong kunin. Di ba? Di ba? So when you come in contact with this transcendental path, you become completely dependent in your love and your affection and you take shelter of Krishna. So, ito yung prayer niya. Sabi niya, "Oh my Lord, I have no desire to have material wealth. I have no desire to enjoy beautiful women. I have no desire, sabi niya, to have any numbers of followers of mine. Any followers. My only desire is to be engaged in your pure loving service life after life." Hindi niya yung sinasabi na, "isave ako." So yun yung transcendental world ng devotee. At it is achievable when we are guided by God. Okay? We're very safe because we're guided by absolute spiritual understanding through the instruction and through the blessing of the spiritual master and the will of Lord Krishna. Ang will ni Lord Krishna is this: just surrender unto me and I'll protect you. To those who are constantly devoted unto me, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Meaning, if we offer our life, then Krishna will guide us. Because He's our shelter. Para bang alam niyo yun you're just like a puppet with the puppet master yung nag-ano. But in this case, you're under Yoga Maya. Hindi Mahamaya. So the living entity, diniscuss natin kahapon, may tatlong yung energy, parang distinction. Yung Supreme Person, who is infallible, and we, Krsna, the living entity, marginal, although in quality, spiritual, and the same potency, but not as the same, have the same potency as God because we're limited. Para bang yung apoy, yung spark tumalon, pwedeng matabunan. Okay? Parang yung sunshine, yung sun, di ba maraming sun rays? The sun rays is inseparable from the sun. You cannot say it's not the sun, but you cannot say that the sun rays is the sun. Okay? So, madali maintindihan. So what happened? Lord Chaitanya is praying, "Oh my Lord, I have no desire for material wealth. I have no desire to enjoy beautiful women. I have no desire for any number of disciples. My only desire is to be engaged in your loving service." Ibig sabihin nun, wala kang material consideration. You don't need anything except Krishna. So doon natin makikita yung pastimes na pinag-usapan natin kagabi, yung state ng consciousness, ng transcendental consciousness ng mga nasa Brindaban, especially the wife of the Brahmanas. So nung lumapit si Krishna at yung mga devotees, humingi ng pagkain, yung mga Brahmins, hindi sila interesado. Okay? Kasi may material consideration sila. They want to go to heaven. Okay? Yung mga wives, Wala silang material consideration. Inisip nila si Krishna. Pag nandiyan si Krishna, forget everything, go to Krishna. So yun yung ano natin. You can check ang description doon. Ganito, nakakita na kayo ng taong nalulunod? You see someone who's drowning? Anong pinaka-importante sa kanya? Hangin, di ba? So you ask yourself, is your desire to do the will of God like that? Okay. Si Krishna lang ba? Is my life and soul. Kaya yung mga, nung si Krishna nasa Vrindavan, is in Vrindavan, and nandun sila sa lake, sa river Jamuna, may lake kasi doon, nandun yung si Kaliya, who is a serpent, multi-headed serpent. Nung si Krishna tumalon, lahat ng cowherd men, si Mother Yasoda, they painted. It's as if their life is lost. Okay? They've died without Krishna. So yun yung buhay ng devotee. It's just Krishna. And when we make progress, Krishna will reveal Himself to us. Because He's a person. And will be guided with love, which is inseparable from us. And what is that all about? It is a relationship of surrender, of honesty and sincerity. That you yourself is like you're nurturing a plant, the garden in your heart. Inaalagaan ba niyo yung garden niyo sa heart? Di ba sa heart natin, for so long, maraming mga tumutubo, mga balinsuri, mga muti-muti, di ba? Na kayang strangle yung maliit na puno, na buto na tinanim na tumutubo. Ganon din yung spiritual life. Kaya may guidance ang spiritual master, paano hindi yung tinanim na tanim sa puso natin, sa garden natin, malinis. Di ba? Karamihan sa atin, farmer. So pag nagtanim tayo, you experience na, marami man palang mga tumutubong damo at habang nagpe-fertilize tayo, may tumutubo rin, nakukuha rin nila yung fertilizer. Kaya lumakalaki rin sila, kumisa mas mabilis pa tumubo kaysa sa tinanim natin. So we have to weed it out. Okay? So when we come to the point wherein we're able to see in clarity what we really want and we're directed in that world of pure devotional service because understanding our true identity and we have become purified from material consideration, then our interest will be doing the will of God. So yun yung sign. And when we are engaged in the process of doing the will of God, it is not just surrender, I'll do your will. No. We experience a relationship. And when that relationship becomes intense, our true transcendental inclination to serve God manifests. Okay? Either as a friend, in different relationship. Okay? So it means all of us, since we are all inseparable from the Supreme Person and the relationship na dapat natin makamtan, mabalik ay yung relasyon ng pagsisilbi. Kasi may mga misconception kasi tayo na pag sinabing servant, parang alipin ba? Hindi ganun yun. It's a service wherein you are offering your life to God. Kaya you bow down to God fully, in humbleness, because you know He will never hurt you. Okay? Kaya you bow down to the spiritual master, offer your life. Please protect me. So when you bow down in humbleness, si Krishna lang, then you're protected. So yun yung devotee. So we should check in ourselves, are we in that state? But that state is achievable when we are simply dovetailing our whole focus, the sacrifice to achieve what we should achieve. Most of you here are farmers, businessmen. How much time na you put in working, thinking how to do business to earn money? Diba? You put so much time. A farmer, you put so much sacrifice and effort to watch parate. Yung plant mukhang kulang ng fertilizer, may mga insekto, we have to fence the farm, check kasi baka may mga animals, mga kambing na papasok, kainin, sayang yung investment. You put so much effort, sacrifice, austerity, you stay there. Pag baha, umuulan, may mga rice field kayo, bumabaha, umuulan, bantayan nyo kasi you have to open yung mga pilapil, di ba? Ginagawa nyo yun, baka malunod yung mga tanim. At makikita nyo, bago mag-harvest, sabi sa news, may bagyong darating. At yung mga palay natin ay, the plants are already, they're already mature, now we can harvest them. What we should do, you put so much effort and sacrifice to protect what is your livelihood. But when we're talking about this discussion about our true transcendental life, which is doing the will of God, it entails also sacrifice. Just like here in this world, if you want to have a friendship with someone, for example, a young boy wants to have a friendship with a young girl, he makes sacrifice, yeah, to make friends, to offer something, relate, rebuild their mind. It's also like that in spiritual life. Kaya lang, in spiritual life, we only reveal our heart, our mind to God. Okay? Kaya you don't do that to anybody. Kaya mayroon tayong system how we can be moving in the direction wherein we can be guided. Halimbawa, respect. Okay? We should offer respect to everyone. Okay? We should offer obeisances to someone who is a disciple or someone who's we hear who's glorifying God. We offer obeisances with our mind. Sometimes we offer with our body, but we only offer our life to God. Okay? Not to anyone. Because if you offer your life to someone who is not on that transcendental world of unalloyed, pure devotional service, you can only achieve what he achieved. Halimbawa ako, grade 1 ako. For example, tapos sumunod kayo sa akin, di grade 1 lang ako. Grade 1 lang yung maintindihan nyo. Okay? Hanggang dun lang. But if you follow someone who's very advanced, but they're not posing us the spiritual master, they're just teachers, guiding. You can achieve what they did achieve. Number 1, like me as a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I can teach you the science of who you are. I can teach you the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master. We can congregate together to discuss and relish the pastimes of Krsna in Vrindavan. We can discuss together about the beauty of being guided and being sheltered and being in refuge of doing what is pleasing to the spiritual master. Okay? So I can teach you to a certain point. Now you don't need to experience by work. I can teach you immediately you're not the body. I can teach you immediately who the qualification of the spiritual master. But it's you who will do the work. It's not me. Okay? Kasi kaya nga ang spiritual life or spiritual master is not appointed. Kasi spiritual master is someone who's loving God. Purely. Yun ang qualification. So, kung appointment, ibig sabihin, why put so much effort na si His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami and all the acharyas put into writing yung Sanskrit into English? And why will the spiritual master canvas, write books, chant, and go out of his way to engage in this tedious effort to canvas those who are in this world who are doing their own will? To remind them, it's a sacrifice. Why will he do that? If spiritual advancement or a spiritual master or love for God is through appointment, then why not appoint everybody else? Why write books? Diba? Why did His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote so many narratives about the Vedas coming from Lord Vyasadeva, the instruction of Lord Krishna, when if it is appointed or inherited? Okay? Because tayo lahat should make the choice. Okay? The choice to do the will of God. No one can do that for us. Okay? But the environment wherein we should be having every day of our life is association of the devotees. Either because in the association of devotees, the center is about, the topics is about achieving what is pleasing to the Supreme Person. Yun ang pinaka-maganda doon. Because it will enhance our affection and attraction to Krishna, to do the will of God. Kaya we congregate together. And the knowledge is eternal. And you have it. And it's up to you to apply it in your life. So, me as a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, I'm not dependent upon the group. I'm not dependent upon this world. My dependency is following the instruction of my spiritual master. And through his guidance, revelation comes. So the chanting of the holy names, God reveals himself to you through the heart. Kaya very important to have an instructing spiritual master from the outside, the Lord within the heart, who is not different from God. And it will be up to you to make that prayerful pleading to God, sincerity, to pray to God to please us, show me your devotee. And then when it's shown to you, like now, you're in a position wherein you're given, all of us are given the opportunity to have someone who is coming from Parampara. So you have to check from scriptures what is being said. You have to see his life and his prayers, everything. He's a teacher by example. And one thing also, the spiritual master has the potency to purify our heart through his prayers and pleading to Lord Krishna, his blessing, that we become attracted to Krishna. He's like a touchstone. You know, last night, na-remember nyo? The touchstone that it's so potent that when metal comes in contact, it becomes gold. Just like, para mas simple, fire is very potent. You put metal in contact with fire, what will happen to the metal? It will become like fire. So that is the test of the bona fide spiritual master. He can influence those who come in contact with him to surrender their heart, their life, and experience love for God. A change of heart. Kasi madali lang mag-change ng damit, madaling mag-change ng grupo, madaling pumunta sa isang lugar, pero ang pinakamahirap is to have a change of heart. And the change of heart comes from experiencing this humbleness, humility, and take shelter of Krishna. So yun yung pastimes ni Lord Krishna sa Vrindavan. So to relish the pastimes of Lord Krishna, we must be in that state of consciousness. Okay? How Krishna protects them. So yung mind natin will be guided, directed upon the pastimes of Lord Krishna that will purify, connect us with what we're longing for, service. We are able to embrace God. Even though you're sitting here, like Lord Chaitanya, yung experience niya, he came here, although he's Krishna, he came here in the mood of Radha and Krishna. Radha and Krishna combined together, Lord Chaitanya, to relish yung pinaka-highest happiness, loving service to God. And in that relationship, it's a separation. He's here in this material world and he's feeling separation from Govinda. So, yun yung reason we must be guided with wisdom. Kasi yung sentiment is transcendental. You cannot separate that from what you're longing for. Now, if you're in bodily identification, what will happen? Yung sentiment will be directed upon the senses. So, how can, yun yung tawag natin sahajiya. Those who do not follow scriptures, who do not follow the teachings of God. And they just imagine. Yun yung sahajiya, pretender. Kaya makikita natin, they may be chanting, they may be dressing as devotees, but their activities is based upon sensual enjoyment. They talk about love for God, but the medium for experiencing that is completely contradictory to the experience of what Lord Chaitanya is teaching us and his life's prayer. They engage in materialistic activity and they're servant of their senses. And if we follow such people, the only way we will be misguided is we don't have this wisdom. Okay, very important to have the wisdom and apply it in our life because that will be our protection. To protect us, our love. You just don't throw your love to anyone. Di ba? And in this situation, we can succeed by taking shelter of Krishna. Okay? And the guidance must be from someone who is a pure loving servant of God. And sometimes, Krishna is so merciful. You know, Kibawi, never land. I don't even know why I'm here, you know. But it's all Krishna's arrangement. I'm just someone who is given this opportunity to serve my spiritual master. And my only connection with my spiritual master is to do his will, to follow his instruction, just like what Lord Chaitanya exemplified. So all of us here can be connected with that affection, that love, by following and doing faithfully the instruction of the spiritual master. And it's not, he's just asking us to chant the holy names. Yeah? Pero yung mind natin, ang daming, unsa man na, nga naman. Di ba? Asa na paingon? Yung mind, puro question eh. Okay? But in your heart, when you become purified and you're able to see the mind, hindi man pala totoo yan. You know? You get attached to something and then you have it, it's gone. So it means, the reason we follow the bona fide spiritual master, he's teaching us something that he achieved. Teacher by example. He teaches us how to love God. Because he's loving God. It's his life. So you follow someone to achieve what he has achieved. So in this case, it's about following the instruction of Lord Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita is a song of God. And Krishna's instruction in this. Abandon all varieties of religion. When we speak of religion, it is not about spirituality because of our conditioning. What we speak of religion in this case is our material conditioning. Serving the senses, serving something, or serving not God. Okay? And our religion may be doing our will. Abandon all of that. And I'll protect you. What the devotee lacks, what you lack, I'll fill it up. Okay? Sabi ni Lord Krishna, even one who is very sinful, who is less intelligent, can cross over this ocean of material misery and achieve success if he follows this path, this wisdom, because where there is light, there is no darkness, and we follow faithfully the instruction of the spiritual master, everything will be revealed to us. Okay? Yun yung process. And exemplified by Lord Chaitanya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, our spiritual master. And now, if you have heard this, then you have now a choice to go back to a world of emptiness, unhappiness, no shelter. If you have heard this and understood it clearly, then it will be the guidance of your heart, your life. And you won't be thinking of any other life than serving Krishna. And your affection for someone you love, under your care, your son, your daughter, will be with wisdom and understanding. Okay? And what we will do now is through the guidance of the spiritual master, engage in karma yoga, action in the service of God. So our view now is different. Prior to coming in contact with this transcendental science, we use this field of activity, this body, as a source of shelter, security, and happiness. Because we are self-centered, it's all about fulfilling what we want. But with this science, we can understand clearly now our true transcendental nature as eternally the loving servant of God, and we see all the material energies here, all the living entities as inseparable from God. So the view now is about engaging and being shepherding everything, shepherding my children, But it doesn't mean that whatever ideas I have will succeed. But because of the consciousness ng buhay natin to engage in loving service and to pray for that person, then Krishna will take care of that person. Our loved ones. Okay? So ganun yung process na pinapalo natin. Success comes from following the instruction of the spiritual master to be sincere and be faithful, and that comes when we are able to direct the mind. And we're able to purify the mind with all material desires, because the mind is where the enemy is. Lust, anger, and greed. And that is the burden you carry. For example, you're angry at someone. Di ba? Who suffers most? You. You're carrying that anger. If ever you see me in Zamboanga, we have this, when I was a young kid, my mother tells me, you know what's Redo all about? Yung Redo ba? Redo. You know what's Redo? Say Redo? You have an enemy that did something wrong to your family, so they plant something. They plant kawayan, bamboo. So every time they see that bamboo, they remember their enemy. Their anger is ignited, and they pass it on to their children. Our enemy, our enemy. So everybody's carrying this load. Our enemy. We should get revenge. Yeah? So ganun. Kaya nga, yung third prayer ni Lord Chaitanya will be our guidance. One can chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind, feeling himself lower than the straw in the street, more tolerant than the tree, and devoid of all sense of false prestige. Humbleness. And it's also being the guidance in our Father's prayer. We pray in our school every day. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Meaning, we have to forgive. Forgiving is meaning unloading the anger. And how can you forgive when you're feeling so high that you have been offended? You're entitled. Ngayon na, ginawa mo yan, bunalan ko niyo, bunalan tsaka dita ka pa sa iloon. Di ba? Eye for an eye. Hindi ganun. So when you are humble, you're tolerant, you're able to feel in yourself, actually, I'm worse than you. I've done so many heinous activities. I have so many issues. So instead of looking at the people's yung muta nila na nagko-cover, naging judge tayo, we should look yung lag na nagtatakip sa mata natin. Kaya spiritual life is about introspection, meditation, and seeing where we are now. It is a virtue that we should understand clearly, where am I? Kasi when you look outside and you be the judge, mahirap. Hindi mo na nakikita, ikaw. So yun yung process natin. And we can see what is lacking, how we can move forward. That's why spiritual life is not joining, but a personal sacrifice, austerity, to do the will of someone we love. And in this case, it's our eternal world, the world of Vaikuntha, our world that Krishna is inviting us, devotional loving service. So now, the choice is here. Krishna's mercy is here. So it's up to us to take part or to make this goal our life. Okay? It's your choice. So, is it clear? May question po kayo na gusto nyo maintindihan? May question ka lang? So, yung bottom line talaga dito, it's Krishna and you. What separates us? You are inseparable with love, service. What separates us from experiencing harmony with the will of God? It is our wrong choice that we wanted to fulfill that love in this world, material world. So we must redirect our life, redirect the mind. So yung Goswami, yung urge ng mind, yung spiritual master, he can teach us how we can control the mind. Because the mind has urge. The thinking, the feeling, the willing. Yun yung mind. Subtle. So when you identify with the mind is motivated and induced or forced by a force greater than you. yung mode of passion. When you're identifying yourself as the body, definitely you'll be very sensuous. Okay? You want to enjoy the senses. So the mind's feeling is about directing you in the direction. So the process of yoga, or we can succeed when we can redirect the mind to doing the will of God. It's a task, a hard endeavor, but it's not by our own power, like the impersonalist. The impersonalist sits down, meditates, he tries to go to God. But because he's limited, even though going to the impersonal Brahman, it will be through God's approval, not his own power. Because God is a supreme controller. He controls everything. God has inconceivable potency. Kaya when we discuss about God's potency, about His glories, it is about the glories of His loving relationship with His devotees, which is very sweet, which is very fulfilling. We're not, oh, God is great, God is all-powerful. No, that's not what the devotee wants. He wants his heart, his life, to be serving and loving Krishna, embracing Krishna. Just like Mother Yasoda, like the gopis, like the mothers in Vrindavan. When they heard Krishna's here in the forest, he's hungry. Immediately, it's like natural for the rivers and the rivulet that goes to the ocean. So we ask ourselves, is our mind like that? Is our heart like that? So that's why we need to chant Harinama, Harinama. Okay, Haribol Namaste. So let's chant together. Okay. Haribol. Okay, you can stand and chant with us. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Naminehi Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestayate. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nayanya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasade Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Haribol. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana Gopala Govinda Rama Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama Madana
Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Haribol Tagore. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Haribol. Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana, Gopala Govinda Rama, Madana Mohana. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gauranga. Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa, Jaya Jaya Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa. Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Ora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prestaya Te.